Okay, so let's start with the continuation of the rest of the I part. So I'm not revising now anything from the last part. We'll directly start with how do we see things. So the first and simplest thing that happens is the entry of the light rays. That you most of this you would know, but then you have to put it in a sequence. Also, with respect to when we talk of the entry of light rays, most of the times the question is being asked with respect to what is the sequence of structure that it will cross through. So then you have to remember this sequence. That is conjunctiva, that is the outermost layer, then cornea, then aqueous humor, then lens, and then the vitreous humor, and then it will fall onto the retina. So that is the whole of the sequence, how the light ray travels throughout the eye structure. Then focusing the image, the curvature of the retina converges the light rays to some extent, and the lens converges them further. Sorry, this should be the cornea, the curvature of the cornea, not the retina. Let me just correct it because that is totally wrong. Cornea. So the curvature of the cornea will converge the light rays because it's the outermost structure. Outermost is as in like after conjunctiva. So it will converge the light to some extent, and then it will further get converged by the lens structure to fall that particular focal point to form the focal point on the retinal structure. And the image on the retina is inverted and real. This is another kind of question that you usually get. What is the kind of image that we see? Inverted means it's below the axis, and it is real, that means it is as it is. And I'm sure you would have studied this part, inverted and real and virtual and upright, so on, right? Or same as the object. All this I'm sure you would have studied in the optics. Yeah. So the image that is formed on the retina is inverted and real, and that's how the image focus occurs within the retinal layer. Then the next thing that happens in this seeing of things is the nerve impulse that is produced in the retina is transmitted to the brain. So light rays, they have certain amount of energy, so they will cause the excitation of these cone cells or rod cells depending on whether it's a color light, bright light, dim light, or whatsoever. So light energy of the image produces a chemical changes in the sensitive cells or sensory cells, that is the rod cells and cone cells, and then these changes, they will generate a nerve impulse. So it's like even the nerve terminals, like when we were looking at this diagram, where is it? Yeah, when we are looking at this diagram, so it will fall onto the retinal layer. It will, the absorption of these light rays or the energy will happen by the sensory cell. They will generate certain electric potential that will get transmitted to these nerve terminals, and from there they will be carried via the optic nerve. So that is the whole of the procedure. Now again, this is a representative image. It does not mean that all the nerve terminals, they are uh, towards the innermost side, and the cone and rod cells, they are on the outermost side. Not like that. It is just a mixture of whole of this, from where the nerve terminal originate, and then they combine further to form the optic nerve structure. So that way, these changes within the chemical changes within the rod cells or cone cells, they will generate the nerve impulse, which will travel through the optic nerve. Again, the type of nerve which carries the signal from eye structure to the brain is optic nerve. And nerve is the combination of the neuronal cell. So there are many new nerve cells or neuron cells. That is what we'll call as nerve in general, which is a bundle of nerve cell. It will reach the visual area of the cerebrum. So there is a visual cortex in the cerebrum. Cortex is again the innermost part of the cerebrum or the brain. So that's where it will go. The signal will be processed, and they will give a sensation of the light. That means whatever image contains, whatever signal is being contained there, that will be kind of reciprocated in terms of image. That is the part of the brain interpretation. And it sees the object even if the image is formed in the eye is inverted. So that means like whatever we had seen, the inverted and real image, that's how the brain will interpret that particular information of the signal coming through the optic nerve. So that is just the general mechanism. How do we see things? So it is divided into these 4 steps: entry of light rays, focusing of the image, that is convergence of the light, then the nerve impulse generation, and the interpretation by the brain of the signal. So that is the general mechanism of how do we see things. And major question they are being asked in this topic is based on the like objective type question. Like for this time you have only MCQ, but when we go for the second semester, there whether the sequence of this entry of light rays, or what which is the first structure where the light converges in the eye, then most of the people write lens, but that is not correct. It is ideally the cornea which is converging the light first, and then further convergence happens with the help of lens. So that is a common thing. Yeah, and that's it from this topic. Does anyone have any question here? Yes,
Yes, understood.
okay, so the next topic is the accommodation of the lens. Accommodation of lens is nothing but adjusting the lens size, whether the what we call as thickness or the thinness of the lens, so that particular amount of light is converged on the retinal layer. So why we do that? It is to view a particular object in sharp focus. So like we had also seen earlier, the yellow spot, it will allow the light to move from word to word so that we get best and clear vision. So that is something like accommodation of the lens. So to see an object very clearly, the image should be in the sharp focus in each eye. And the process of this focusing of the eye to see the object at different distances is called accommodation. Like we had also seen in terms of pupil structure. If the light is too bright, pupil will be kind of decrease in size, or if there is very dim light, you tend to widen your eyes, so the pupil is also dilated. So these are the just simpler things. So this is mainly brought about by the changes in the curvature of the elastic lens to make it either thinner or thicker. So we know that on the side of the lens there is this suspensory ligament or the ciliary bodies. So if they stretch the eye towards the side or towards the corner, obviously lens is going to become a little flat. That is thinning of the lens. Or if it is going to the suspensory ligament and the ciliary body, if they are relaxing, it will bring the lens back to its position. And that way the lens will become little thicker or fat at the center. So for distant vision, the lens is more flattened or thinner, because again, this has something to do with your optics. Like if I guess I should have some diagram here. Yes. So if there is an object which is at distance, then it tends to converge. To make it converge on the retina, the lens has to become thinner. On the contrary, if the object is closer, because it has to again converge the focal point on the retina, it has to become thicker, so that the convergence point as well as the focal point is managed within the eye structure. And that is when we are not able to manage these like the focus point on the retina, that is what we have either myopia or hyperopia. That is why we have glasses. So if this eyes itself or the lens itself is not able to manage this curvature or accommodation on its own, that is what leads to the spectacles. So and for near vision, that is less than 6 meter, the lens becomes more convex or rounded. So these two things you have to remember. Why? Again, that goes back to the optics part. So I assume you have this basic understanding of what happens to when the object is near or far from the lens structure. And these changes in the shape of lens is brought about by this ciliary muscle. So that is just the simpler explanation of the accommodation of lens in terms of making the thinner or fatter lens. So simpler thing, distant object, the lens become more thin, so the light is converged with the focal point on retina. If the object is closer to the eyes, the lens becomes a kind of thick or fat, and then again the same thing happens. So that is the accommodation of the lens. Again, this slide explains the same things. I'm not going to talk about it. Just the same thing in terms of ciliary muscles, whether it contracts or it relaxes. So if it is relaxed, the lens is going back to its original position, or it becomes more like a stout structure. If it is contracting, then it becomes thinner. So that way it is being explained. Also, you can watch this video, which talks about the power of accommodation of the eye. And there you will get more clarity in terms of how the light or how the accommodation of lens affect the sight. Then there is something called as light and dark adaptation. These are two important topics from the this particular chapter. So it's literally an adaptation to particular situation, whether it's light or dark situation. So when you pass from a brightly lighted area to a dark room, right, you experience a difficulty in seeing an object for a short while, because your eyes, they are tuned to seeing a bright light, and slowly your vision is improved, and that is what is called as dark adaptation. That means you are adapting to the dark situation when you are coming from a highly bright area. And why does that happens? It is due to the regeneration of this pigment called rhodopsin or visual purple, which was broken down due to the bright light. So whenever there is too much of the bright light, obviously that energy will be conveyed to the retinal cells, that is the rod cells. Bright light is responsible because of the rod cells, they are responsible for seeing the bright light. So whenever there is bright light falling onto the retina, rhodopsin will get activated, and all of it will get used up. And to get it back to that normal position, it takes a certain fraction of second. And that regeneration time of the rhodopsin pigment, that is what causes you or not allow you to see something in dark immediately when you come from bright area to dark area. So that is the adaptation of this pigment. It's also called as bleaching of the pigments, because but again, that term is not to be used in this context as such. So that is the whole reason why this dark adaptation occurs. So again, in short, when you are moving from very bright area to dark area, all of the rhodopsin pigment will be occupied due to the amount of light falling onto your retinal structure in the eye. All of the rhodopsin will be occupied. It will take a certain amount of time to regenerate back to its normal position or normal structure, because it's a pigment, that is the protein like structure. And that regeneration time is what we call as dark adaptation. So that means a time for an eye to adapt to a particular situation. And same thing happens the other way. So when a person with dark adapted eyes move to a brightly lighted area, so if you are in the dark and you suddenly go into a bright area, as you are coming out of a dark room, it experiences a dazzling effect for a short period. Again, this is called as light adaptation, and this occurs because the reduced sensitivity of the pigment, that is the visual purple, which is called bleached, and it is like reduced in sensitivity because it does not have much function in the dim light. And that is when you suddenly come out, the sudden surge of light comes onto your eye structure. So all of the pigment is getting utilized in a fraction of second, and that will cause like a little while. Little while is again just a fraction of second. It's not, and it also depends on how healthy your eyes are. For some people, it can go up to a little longer than 4 to 5 seconds. That depends on how strong the eye structure is, and that is called as light adaptation. Yeah, and the another mechanism is just constriction of the pupil. That's what we do usually when we move from dark to light or the other way around. So these are the two concepts in terms of dark adaptation and light adaptation that happens due to the regeneration time taken by the pigment to come back to its normal functional state. So that is why dark and light adaptation. Too fast?
Yeah. It's okay. I can write it later.
Okay, does anyone have any question here, or people have gone to the bed? Sorry. Yeah, this is just the representation in terms of how does the structure of the pupil changes in terms of dim light and bright light. So in dim light, because the amount of light is so small, you want to capture maximum of it. So that's when the pupil is dilated to again the maximal possible capacity, and that happens with the radial muscle contraction. So these muscles which are along the radius, they will contract. So they will pull the pupil structure more and more open, and in case of bright light, because the structure is because the light is too much, you tend to constrict your pupil, that is reduce in size, and that happens due to the circular muscle contraction. So again, these two things, pupil dilation is radial muscle contraction and pupil contraction is the circular muscle contraction. So that way, these are the two things. Color vision, again a simplest thing. There is not much to explain here. It's just the ability of a particular type of bone cells to recognize a particular wavelength. So there are different types of bone cells, and you are already able to see different types of colors. That is because of a particular type of bone cells absorbing a particular wavelength. So there are usually three types. Again, I must say that this is a little extra, but I'm not too sure if it falls into extra category or it's within the syllabus. But let me just cover it in any which case. So there are these three types of bones, which will one type of cells or one group of cells which absorbs the wavelength longer than or longer wavelength, and that is like a red light. That is the, again, if you know UV visible spectra, that Vibgyor, right? That is the sequence. Red is the longer wavelength, and that's what the red light will be absorbed or seen. Another middle wavelength, that is the green part, and that's when you see green light. Third type, which absorb the shorter wavelength, that is third type of bone cell, and that's when you see a blue or violet kind of colors. So that is just a simpler distinction between different types of cells. So one is like a lower range of wavelength, middle range of wavelength, and the higher range of wavelength, and because of that you see different colors. So each of these type of bone cells has a different wavelength of absorption. So that's why different changes in the pigment, and that is why different change in the signal that is being passed on from the retinal cells or retinal bone cells to the brain, and that's why you are able to interpret the colors and so on. So that is what is explained with the color vision on this slide. Okay, I suppose this is the last part of this whole chapter. I'm not sure though. Yeah, it is the last part. So these are the common defects of the eye. Now, usually when we talk of the common defects, the common one, that is the people with the spectacles, is myopia, that is near or short-sightedness. In short-sightedness, the near objects can be seen, but distant objects appear blurred. So if you have myopic lenses, that means you are able to see the objects which are closer to you. You are able to read very functionally, normally, but the objects are distant, like seeing a blackboard from a distance and so on, that does not appear clearly, or that vision is blurred. So in this case, most of the times the image is formed in front of the retina. That is what you see in the case of myopia. And what are the reasons of this myopia? So that the eyeball is lengthened from front to back and lens is too curved. That means it is kind of stout lens or fatter lens, you can say, or thicker lens. So when this lens is too thick, the light converges much before the retina. So the image itself is formed before the retina. And that is when you are trying to see something which is not at the focal point, you see a blurred vision. And that is what is the case of the myopia. And the correction of myopia is done by using a suitable concave lens. This type is called as double concave lens. There can be single concave or double concave based on the need of the person, which diverges. So it is also called as diverging lens. So what it will do is diverge as it like move the rays a little away from the central axis. I don't know what is that called as central line plane.
Principal axis.
Yeah, principal axis. So it will diverge the rays from the principal axis and then again converge it so that the rays will form a focal point right on the retina and then you are able to see clearly. So again, whenever you go to ophthalmologist, they put different types of lenses and they ask you to read certain letters and so on. That's what they try to play around with these external lenses so that you are able to see it correctly. Another thing that most of people, most of the patients who tend to go to ophthalmologist, they tend to squeeze their eyes and then look through it. So it would be ideal that if person sees through normal eye structure, that is not squeezed in or not dilated, but with the regular shape of the eye and then look through it. So that is just the correction of the myopia. And most people wearing spectacles may have myopia or the power of glass is you mentioned in the minus. Like we usually say -1, -2. So that is because I forgot the description of this. Why it is minus? Power is in minus because
and I don't know why.
okay, this part I will tell you in the next class. It's also interesting description. It has something to do with the focal point. So if the focal point is beyond,
Power is 1 by focal length, right?
but why minus? That minus sign is because of something. It has related to something, the distance with the focal point, either beyond focal point or before focal point, something of that sort, which I forgot now. But yeah, so I will talk about this in maybe one of the next classes, just a quick point. But yeah, this is all about myopia, which is also short-sightedness, where you cannot see or you see a blurred vision of the distant object.
Sir, but for a concave lens, the power is always negative.
Why?
Why?
That is exactly why I have forgotten that fact. I said.
So that is because the focus is f1 is on the left side, which is in front of the lens. So if you look at it like in from a bird's eye view or something, you will see that it's on the left side, and left side is generally minus. So because the focus is before the is on the side of the object.
Sir, so then it will be due to sign convention, sir, because
Something related to that because
the focus of the convex lens is like towards the direction of incident light, but the focus of the concave lens is against the direction of incident light. So
something to do. I forgot it. Actually, I had read it much in detail. Okay, let me not talk about it because I really don't know or don't remember of it. But yeah, I will surely write about it later or talk about it. So that is myopia. Exactly opposite situation is called hyperopia, or it's also called as hypermetropia, which is far-sightedness or long-sightedness. In this, you can see the objects at distance perfectly, but the objects which are near, you are not able to see them clearly. So that is difficulty in seeing the near objects. So in this case, the image of the object falls behind the retina. So that means the focal point is beyond the retinal layer. Now this is not like a literal sense, because it cannot cross the um, what we say, the layers of the sclera and so, but imaginary focal point that will be beyond the retina. Yeah. So of course, again, you would know this part. So a convex or converging lens is required to correct it. So obvious reason for this is the too much of the elongation of the lens. That is the that can happen due to the high pressure. That can also happen too much of the stretching of the ciliary muscles and so on. So convex or converging lens is used to correct it. So it will first converge, and it will further be converged by the lens and cornea structure, so that the focal point is right on the retina. And again, in this case, the power of the glasses is plus. And so that is exactly opposite situation of the myopia. And here the last point occurs due to the shortening of the eyeball from front to back. That is, lens is too flat. That means lens is thinner. Flat means a thinner lens. So it's kind of becoming flat from both the sides. Yeah, so that is about the hyperopia or farsightedness.
Sir,
Yes.
then people have reading glasses. What kind of lenses do they use?
They use mostly these what we call convex lenses. And even in some cases, like especially the old people, you would have seen both type of lenses they wear. Like they have like whole outer part of the lens, and there is small half of the glass or curvature of the glass, which is for the farsightedness, that is seeing the objects closer. So depends on the situation, but in most of the cases, a majority of people, they have short sightedness. That means they cannot see the objects at distance. In most of the old people, you will commonly see this farsightedness or hyperopia, where they are not able to see the objects even close by.
Sir,
Yes.
and is it necessary to people to have glasses at a certain age?
Not necessary. If your eyes are healthy and normal, it's surely not required. But if you are using too much of the devices, in the sense like any other, not just devices, any other work which requires more contact with the UV light or even visible light to a greater extent, or staring at one particular situation, that also cause a lot of damage to the eye. So in any of this situation, it is best that we have glasses. Akshay, yes.
So can a person have both of these defects, hyperopia and
It is very much possible, because it's ultimately goes to the accommodation of the eye. So if the eyes are not able to accommodate in any of the situation, like let's say for example, you want to see a far distant object, you are not able to accommodate your eye. And the same is the case if you want to see something which is nearby, and there also the eyes cannot accommodate. Then in that such situation, both the lenses, they are being used. And there,
the eye lens cannot be both too thick and too flat, right?
right, but that is just the regular situation of the eye lens, which can cause either myopia or hyperopia, right? But eyes can be normal, but the whole of the retinal structure can be a little ahead or little due to the changes in the pressure of the eye. Like we spoke of that vitreal fluid which maintains the shape of the eyeball. If it is not being maintained properly, then in that case you would need different kinds of treatment. One of the treatment is use of glasses. So there are several situations. What we are looking at is just a small part of one situation, where it is specifically referring to the lens structure. Otherwise, there are too many complications as well. So for example, I will tell you about my own eyes. I have a very typical disease, or rather it's a disorder. It's called as coloboma, and it's a retinal coloboma, which means detachment of the retinal structure from the whole of the eyeball. So if you go back to this diagram, where is it? In this case, right? You can imagine this layer is almost on the verge of detachment from the whole of the eyeball structure, including starting with this retinal pigment epithelium. And if it is detached, that means it's going to be dead and a person will not have a vision at all. So that is the situation. And it is like one of the worst, and it does not even have much of treatment as of now. So that is like a very weird, and that's when I prefer to choose or prefer to wear glasses all the time, so that I can at least protect some part of my eyes till I am whatever 60, 70. I don't know when I'll die, but yes, I will. Yes. Someone else has any question? I guess someone had raised.
Yeah, me. So,
Yes, Deeta.
so what happens to cornea's damage?
Cornea is damaged. You can still replace the cornea with artificial cornea.
So, but it can heal as well, right?
It's a simple thing. Let's say, for example, you have a glass, right? And if your glass has a scratch or if it is zigzag, right, you are not able to see through it clearly. Same is the case with cornea. Cornea is a transparent layer of cells, and if it has certain defects, either in terms of scratch or damage to the cells or irritation or dryness, any of these, that will lead to ultimately not being able to see clearly. What we call as blurred vision. So that will happen but that is easily a replaceable thing nowadays, because simple layer of cells which are corneal cells, either artificial layers or from someone else, what we call as cornea transplant, that can happen easily.
So, no, like suppose it's slightly damaged, like not a scratch or anything, but suppose something fell in your eye, but then it's kind of damaged, but not fully damaged. So you could use those eye medicines like eye drops and everything to heal it. After that, is it possible? Or
It's possible if the damage is reversible, right? And like usually these are corneal epithelial cells, so they have the ability to grow on their own. But let's say it has damage to an extent that it cannot replace the dead cells, then yes, the only option left is to replace the cornea.
and so what will happen if the retina is damaged?
If the retina is damaged, a person will not be able to see it.
Okay.
So there are these little replacement therapy. You can still correct the corneal cells to some extent. That's when this retinal pigment epithelium is there, RPE, that can regenerate few cells. But if itself is damaged, then there is no chance. So that way it works. Someone else has raised hand again.
Sir, it's me again. Sir, if somebody lost their eyes, I mean lost the vision, then they would replace their eyes itself, right? Then while replacing, how do they fix the eyes exactly that all the nerve endings are in place?
It's a simple muscular attachment within the eye orbit.
No, sir, but then in the it has to be connected with the optic nerve, right?
Yeah, so that also happens. So nowadays you can also connect the optic nerves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I will share one small video or small description where they talk of whole of this procedure. So it's literally, we call it microsurgery, like literally stitching the cells. That's how it is done. I mean, yeah, it like we may not be able to visualize it, but yes, that's how exactly it happens. And in most of the cases, like whole of this nerve structure can also be replaced from the person's like nerve cells replaced, I'm saying. But again, there are too many complications. But yes, the question is very much valid, but in that case, that microsurgery kind of things can be done very easily. Okay, shall we move forward? Okay, so the another common defect with eyes is astigmatism, which is like a defect in which some part of the objects are seen in focus while the others are blurred. So I guess in your textbook you have a diagram of a star shaped object, and the center, if you look at the center, you can see the center very clearly, but surrounding the center of that star shape, you don't see the clear object, or the other way. Like you are seeing the edges of the star very clearly, but the center you see it blurred. In short, if you are looking at a picture, one part of the picture or one corner of the picture is very clear, and the other parts, they are little blurred. So that's what is astigmatism, and that happens due to the uneven curvature of the cornea. That's what Deeta has asked earlier. Like if the corneal surface is not completely even surface, which has a kind of damage or a kind of breaks or whatever, so that is because of this that leads to this situation of astigmatism, and usually corrected by the cylindrical lenses, that is the thick lenses that we have, so that the function of cornea is completely reduced, and the cylindrical lenses, which are external ones, they take over the major function. And if it is too damaged, then ultimate therapy is to replace the cornea. That is astigmatism. Then there is something called as presbyopia. This is specifically a condition with the older people who cannot see the like objects, near objects very clearly. This is something what we call as this situation. No, sorry, this, no, where is it? Yeah, this situation. Near objects, they cannot be seen. That's like hyperopia, but in older people, that is presbyopia. And again, their lens, they loses the flexibility. This is more like a geriatric disorder. Geriatric means older, related to the older people. So that way, because their muscles, they get a little weakened, and depending on how much of the eye muscles they have been used over the time, the muscles, they also tend to lose the flexibility, and that's why the lens structure is distorted, which result in a kind of farsightedness. That means the near objects cannot be seen clearly, and it is again corrected by the same way, like your farsightedness or hyperopia, by a convex lens. So that is presbyopia situation. Then cataract, it's another situation or defect in the eye where lens will turn opaque, and this opaque lens can happen due to either some growth of the cells over it, or certain what we say, certain particles staying fixed within the eye structure. There are various reasons of this cataract, but the main like effect or how it affects is the turning of the lens opaque, and then it will reduce the vision, and it can even lead to total blindness if it is not corrected in time, because then eyes tend to like lose the sensitivity of the cells to see the light, and they might turn total blind. But that's like a very rare situation. Usually nowadays cataract is very much curable. It is corrected surgically by removing the lens and using spectacles with highly convex lenses, and compensating it for the missing lens. So whatever lens that has been removed, that is externally provided to the eyes, and then that you need to wear it. And this is again a situation which is more of a geriatric type. That means again after 40s or 50 years of the age, this cataract happens. But again, it can become a lifestyle disease because based on the individual eye structure of the people. A smaller plastic lens can also be implanted behind or in front of the iris structure, so that acts as the lens structure within the eye itself, and that is again a surgical procedure. So that's how the cataract functions. Night blindness, sorry.
So cataract, this plastic lens will obviously have some side effects also, right?
No. So these are usually what we call as biologically compatible devices. So plastic does not literally mean a plastic. It's just a thin layer of film which is fixed there and which has a specific what we call, not refractive index. What index? Refractive index. Yeah, refractive index. So that way it is adjusted to certain refractive index, so that whatever objects, whatever rays are passing through, they will form the image as close as to the original lens structure in the eye.
So it's either the plastic lens or glasses.
Yeah, plastic lens no one uses that much because it's more that you are putting external structure, and there the chances of infection and those stuff can also happen. That is the case with even surgery also, but still people don't prefer this plastic thing inside. They simply prefer, usually cataract nowadays they are doing this laser surgery, where they just kind of make these cells by the laser treatment, which is short pulse of laser. So those cells, they become dead, that they will be removed by the immune cells in the eye structure, and they will be scraped up, so you get a better vision. It's just removal of that layer.
So the spectacles are the person with total blind.
Not really. You can still see to some extent. You may not see it in a focused way.
So
Yes.
would the laser treatment hurt,
Huh?
or would they be under anesthesia?
Sorry, would they be?
Would the laser treatment hurt, or would they be under general anesthesia?
I didn't get it. I'm not able to get the
I
words.
just heard laser treatment.
Dita.
Yeah, so can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the last words, they are kind of jumbled up.
Oh, sir, I said when you get the laser treatment, are they like under general anesthesia or?
General
Just when you do,
Oh.
yeah.
General anesthesia, no. Usually it is local anesthesia. See, it depends on the purpose of the surgery. If a surgery is going to affect the whole body, like let's say for example, a surgery where there is a major loss of blood, or heart surgery, or any major organ surgery, in those cases general anesthesia is used. If it is a localized surgery, you don't need to give general anesthesia. So most of the eye situation, it is only a local anesthesia that is given. Okay, so we will come to the night blindness. You know what night blindness is. It is difficulty in seeing a dim light or during night especially, and this happens due to the non-formation of the pigment rhodopsin in the rod cells, and that is of course less rhodopsin, so less reception of the dim light, or less reception of that signal from the dim light. So obviously a person won't be able to see. So only rods function in the dim light, and in absence of it, obviously eyes cannot function. And usually this is due to the deficiency of vitamin A. Why vitamin A? Because vitamin A is the kind of precursor molecule in the formation of rhodopsin. So if vitamin A is less, rhodopsin will be less. So ultimately the night sight will be less. And that's why like we usually say eat carrot, eat radish and stuff which contains lot of vitamin A. So that's how night blindness happens. Color blindness, this is again less sensitivity to the colors, and this is usually a congenital. Congenital means since birth, right? Congenital and genetic, these are two different terminologies. Congenital can be genetic, congenital can be non-genetic. If it is non-genetic, that means during the developmental phase within the mother's body, that could have happened. That is congenital. So congenitally, some people cannot differentiate between certain colors like red and green, and this is X-linked chromosomal genetic defect. And you can check it yourself whether you are colorblind. Most of the people, they know it because they can't see the difference between red and green, especially at the signal. And this occurs more in males than in females because it is X-linked recessive. So not recessive. Yeah. Okay, I myself got confused, but forget about that. I need to think about it. But yeah, I can't think about at this moment. So it is X-linked for sure, and it occurs more in male because if the when the parents they are fertilizing the zygote, obviously half of the portion is that comes to the male is from the female, right? And male have only one X set of X chromosome. That is why it affects more in males than in female. That's the obvious logic there. Squint is another situation where the converging point or the focal point of both the eyes is lying at the different positions in there. So the two eyes somewhat converge, leading to what is called as cross eye. So squint is also called as cross eye syndrome. And in this, the both of the eyes convergence point is like little tilted from the main axis, and that is when a person it feels like person is looking at two different position, but the person himself or herself is looking at one particular point. And the opposite condition occurs when they diverge. So there are two situations, either it is converging squint or diverging squint. And it is also called as cross eye. Converging is called as cross eye, and diverging squint is called as wide eye. In both conditions, it may cause double vision, or what is also called as diplopia. Double vision is you see objects like twice in this sense. There are two images formed, and your brain processes as two different images. Usually, again, a laser surgery or suitable exercises of the eye, they can correct these defects if they are minor. If they are major, then the surgical procedures, they are must in these cases. Yeah, so that's it about whole of this eye structure. If you have any questions, I can take it. Otherwise, we'll stop for today.